My husband is very rich, but I don't love him. In college, he pulled out all the stops to pursue my roommate, Jessica. Luxury gifts came one after another. He even made a spectacle of delivering 9,000 roses below the women's dorm building. All the girls in our dorm got to enjoy the overflow. Only Jessica looked utterly indifferent. She even warned Robert not to come looking for her again. He's really rich and not bad looking. Are you sure you don't want him? I asked, finally voicing the question that had been bothering me, while applying a face mask. No way. That kind of reserved by the book serious guy? You want him, you go for it, Jessica said dismissively. I propped my chin on my hand, thought for a moment, and nodded. Okay, I'll go for him. Jessica's expression shifted, but she didn't say anything else. After finishing my face mask, I washed my face and went downstairs. She has a boyfriend, I said, holding up my umbrella, seeing Robert standing below the dorm building, looking at us devotedly like a puppy. I couldn't help but add that extra piece of information. He froze, pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses, and apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Jessica hadn't told him. His expression clouded over as he lowered his head, attempting to throw the black roses in his hand into the trash can. Holding my umbrella, I watched the flowers getting rained on and felt it was a waste. Black roses. My favorite. Wait, don't throw them away. Give them to me. He looked at the black roses, soaked by the rain, and gave a self-deprecating smile before handing them over. Okay. In that moment, his white shirt was considerably soaked by the rain, clinging to his faintly visible abs. Clean, graceful, with abs, tall and compliant. Most importantly, rich. Honestly, quite to my liking. Hey, I called out to him. He turned, looking confused. I don't have a boyfriend yet. Pursue me. I held out my umbrella to shield him. I'm not bad looking. I go to bed early and wake up early. And I have a healthy routine. I run 6 kilometers every morning, eat healthy meals in the evening, and use face masks daily for skincare. Many more guys pursue me than pursue Olivia, but I've turned them all down. He took off his gold-rimmed glasses and looked at me silently. Time seemed to stretch on, long enough for his assistant to come over with an umbrella, long enough for his car to pull up below the dorm building. Okay? He noted my phone number and left. I turned and went back upstairs. I had looked into Robert's background. He started his own company right after graduation, and its scale grew continuously. When he eventually went back to inherit the pay group, he was bound to be incredibly wealthy. That's why I couldn't understand Jessica. Perhaps it was because my parents always argued about household expenses for money and eventually divorced, making wealth the most important criterion in my choice of a partner. With money, there would be no arguments about daily living costs. Back in the dorm, Jessica's face darkened when she saw the flowers in my hand. You don't need to be bothered anymore. He won't come looking for you, I told her, drying my hair. I expected her to sigh in relief or feel unburdened, but her face only grew darker. You're disgusting, she spat. Jessica's voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough to instantly silence the entire dorm. My hand paused in drying my hair, and the towel dropped to the floor, splashing water. I've never liked resorting to physical confrontation, but in that moment, I still slapped her. Neither of us was typically a person who lost control, but that day, there was a certain suppressed to the extreme emotion in her eyes. I didn't understand it, nor did I want to. My roommates were startled. Some tried to mediate, some tried to hold me back. Some said I went too far, while others said she was being hypocritical. But I truly didn't understand. She clearly said she didn't want him. She said his pursuit was a bother. So why, when I took over, did it become stealing? From that day on, she moved out of the dorm and barely contacted me again. I didn't dwell on it much. Some people said I was immoral. Others criticized Olivia. I still didn't understand. She said Robert's pursuit was a nuisance. She said she didn't want it. So when I took it, why did she get angry? Anger is one thing, but name-calling, I couldn't tolerate. Occasionally, I'd hear about her and her boyfriend being together. Some people said they were a very well-matched couple. Some people even shipped her and that senior online, forming a pairing. Meanwhile, my contact with Robert increased instead. He wasn't good at expressing emotions, but he was polite and reserved. He quickly became a hot topic on the campus forums. I became the person by his side, and rumors spread like wildfire, but I didn't care. I knew from the start what I wanted. On our wedding day, Robert arrived at the last minute, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. Standing before me, he seemed like a freshly calibrated, precise instrument. The wedding was grand. On the guest list, there were a third of the names I didn't even recognize. I smiled appropriately, carried myself elegantly. In all the photos, I was faultless. I didn't know how he convinced his parents to agree to marry me. There was no dynastic marriage, no matching social or economic status. His parents were also very cultivated people. There was none of the condescension or disdain I had imagined. They gave us their sincerest blessings. We hope you will support each other in the future and manage this marriage and your own lives well. After the marriage, I lived very comfortably. Robert is truly very rich. How rich? His companies are spread globally. He travels by private jet and signs contracts worth hundreds of millions. Marrying him was the smartest decision I ever made. He doesn't understand romance, nor does he understand me. He won't write me love letters. He won't call late at night to say he misses me, and even on Valentine's Day, he only sends flowers through his assistant. He is a typical reserved by the book serious husband. Calm, disciplined, and uninteresting. Perhaps all his youthful passion was spent on Jessica. Being with him felt like being married to a money-making machine. Your husband's not here again. What good is all that money if he's not home 3 days out of the week? Aren't you lonely? Megan, a friend I'd known since childhood, whom I saw less of after getting married, came over. Right away, she felt I was getting a raw deal, that my husband didn't spend enough time with me. I wasn't bothered and took her onto the private jet. How could I be lonely? The world is so big. I should thank my husband for working so hard to earn money, so I have the chance to see it. Anywhere in the world, if I want to, I can enjoy the most luxurious treatment. Lonely? How could I be? My friend's face didn't look good. Finally, she just shook her head. I still think no matter what, being together as husband and wife is most important, even if it means enduring wind and sun. I didn't understand. I was even quite taken aback. To think some people thought like Jessica, but I did feel a little down perhaps. In their eyes, I was the outlier. I think you've changed. You're not the Olivia I knew as a child anymore, she said, her face flushing with embarrassment under my gaze, before huffing and leaving. She was right. I had changed initially. I would take her traveling, covering all expenses, and give her a supplementary card for various beauty treatments, but she always felt awkward, insisted on calculating costs everywhere we went, and didn't want to take advantage of me. Even after I told her countless times it wasn't necessary, and Robert even told her to spend more time with me and reimburse the expenses, she still refused. When the assistant reported the discounted costs, she looked uncomfortable at the high amounts and asked the assistant for receipts, implying the assistant was trying to swindle her. Over time, I rarely invited her out. The circles I moved in after marriage were completely different. I was very, very busy, besides traveling and relaxing. I enrolled in many courses, from flower arrangement and French to financial management, studying very seriously, not out of interest, but just in case something happened in the future. I wouldn't leave empty-handed. I heard that Olivia and her senior had broken up, and she had even started working at one of Robert's branch offices, in case one day Robert remembered his dramatic, idealized first love and wanted a divorce. I couldn't be unprepared, although divorcing and taking half the property might be unrealistic. I wanted to get as much as possible, and I'd need to learn how to manage it, so I was very busy. When I returned from country, our Megan came over. Olivia, your idealized first love is back. Your first crush is back, and he's super rich now. You married Robert for money back then, but now you can divorce him and marry David. He hasn't contacted you all these years. He must still have feelings for you. As luck would have it, Robert returned on the same day I did. He heard every word. He stood in the foyer, impeccably suited, his expression calm, his eyes revealing little emotion as he tapped on his phone screen. Megan turned around, and her face instantly paled. She quickly stood up, laughing awkwardly. Mr. Robert, you're back. I was just joking. Olivia wouldn't really. I didn't take it seriously, he said calmly, walking in. He hadn't taken off his suit jacket yet and was holding a gift box Ade brought back from his business trip. Didn't think much of it either. He lowered his gaze and placed the gift box in front of me. You said you wanted to try the Hokkaido roll cake last time. I brought it back. My eyes flickered, but my fingers didn't move. My assistant reports my schedule to him. He knew I was returning today and came back specifically for that, didn't he? I knew his schedule was tight. It wouldn't have been easy for him to break away. Thank you. I heard him give a faint hum. And then he turned and went upstairs. I sat on the sofa, staring at the exquisitely perfect roll cake in front of me, suddenly finding it tasted like wax. Megan had left quickly. She hadn't expected Robert to return early. Even more, She hadn't expected that he wasn't the type of detached, wooden husband she thought. Why? I knew he was good to me. It was just that his kindness wasn't romantic, wasn't passionate, didn't stir my heart. It was too bland. He and I were both extremely disciplined people. Two similar people rarely sparked a flame. The only point of compatibility was his physique, muscled and toned, comparable to a top male model. In bed, he was astonishingly strong. Even in our most intimate moments, he strictly controlled the pace, disciplined to the point of being demanding, yet leaving me with no complaints. Thinking about us potentially separating in the future, a strange sense of loss unexpectedly arose in my heart. I hadn't taken Megan's words seriously at all. Could David, no matter how rich now, compare to Robert? The idealized first love she mentioned, David, was just one of my suitors in college. He pursued me. I said I wasn't interested, but he told others I had agreed. He kept bothering me, so I told him directly that I would only marry a rich man. Rumors are hard to dispel, and somehow, it spread that he was my idealized first love. Ridiculous, however. The next day, David contacted me. The text message was cautious and restrained. "Olivia, it's David. Can we meet? There's something I want to tell you." Such a disgusting way to address me. I didn't reply, but my heart did indeed flutter, not because of love, but because I felt he was like a bomb. If not handled carefully, he could become a hidden fuse in my marriage, detonating one day and destroying my life. I knew that if this kind of lingering old flame scenario was caught by the media, it would be a fatal blow to me. I'm not driven by romance. I was clear that if I wanted to continue having the life I had now, I couldn't make mistakes. Before Robert proposed divorce, I certainly didn't want one. When I went to the appointment, Megan was there too. She suggested we have some alcohol. David only had a few drinks. I hesitated for a moment and took a sip. Honestly, the alcohol was terrible, not even comparable to a random bottle from Robert's wine cellar. I took one sip and refused more. Bad alcohol wasn't meant to be drunk. Just that small sip made me feel dizzy and see double. I leaned on the table, vaguely hearing them talk. "Honey, you're not actually going to touch her, are you? We just agreed on taking a picture, otherwise I'll be jealous, the kind that's hard to win over." Megan's voice was thin and nasal, like she had a cold. Who was she calling honey? Why was she using such a sickening voice all of a sudden? "Don't worry, baby. It's just a picture and a video. With this, we won't have trouble getting the pay group's cooperation, David." My already fuzzy brain almost shut down. Megan and David. I pressed the quick dial button on my phone, just as David's dirty hand was about to touch me. Robert's bodyguards came in. "Ms. Olivia, are you all right?" The two people in front of me were surrounded by other security personnel, and the restaurant was quickly secured. "What are you doing?" "I'm Olivia's best friend. We grew up together." "What do you think you're doing?" Megan panicked. She had been to my house a few times and seen many staff members, but she didn't know I always had bodyguards with me when I went out. Perhaps I had never imagined that my so-called best friend would plot against me with an outsider. What was she after? I didn't understand. If she truly wanted cooperation, she could have just asked. I would have helped. Why go through such a roundabout way to frame me? "Excuse me. Olivia is our schoolmate. We were just catching up and had a bit too much to drink. It's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding." David started to panic too. He maintained a semblance of composure, but his voice was already trembling. The bodyguards retrieved the restaurant's surveillance footage and copied a version in front of them. My head was very dizzy. So dizzy, I felt like my body was floating. I woke up again being held by Robert. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. "Like he had been up all night, husband?" My voice was a little shaky. "The glasses have been sent for testing," he said softly. "They'll go to jail." I looked at him blankly, a sudden shiver running through me. When Robert was ruthless, he was terrifyingly cold. It was the first time I had seen him show so much emotion. The usually composed Robert tore off his tie. This was a side of Robert I'd never seen before. Like he had ripped off his civilized mask to reveal a darker side. Robert? Was this my refined, reserved, and steady husband? I murmured his name softly. I don't know what nerve that touched, but I ended up crying. I didn't sleep all night and was completely exhausted. "He's sick, isn't he?" Could he have heard news about Olivia and felt a different kind of stirring? I guessed correctly. Olivia had been transferred to headquarters. Ms. Olivia. Word from Coastal City is that Jessica and Chen Song broke up a month ago. Mr. Robert will be staying at headquarters for a long time. He won't leave before the project ends. They'll be seeing each other constantly. What if they run into each other? Sarah, who had worked for Robert for many years and had been transferred to be my assistant after I got married, was more worried than I was about Jessica's appearance. If I divorced Robert after working for me for several years, her position would be very awkward. I was painting and wasn't very concerned. Even if I were, I couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't like I could make them avoid each other entirely. Do you even understand the power of the one who got away, Ms. Olivia? Sarah sighed. My hand twitched, and my brush stroke went awry. Though not obvious, there was still a noticeable mistake in the painting, even without Robert. I can support you. I tried to comfort Sarah, however. Hearing that, she looked even more defeated, as if convinced that Jessica's return as the idealized first love would cause a huge impact on my marriage. This poor girl. I told her I could support her, and she still didn't believe it. Sarah had been subtly suggesting I return to the company recently. I was very busy, but I still made time and went to headquarters. When I arrived, I passed the administrative building and saw a group of people waiting by the elevators in the distance. A man was standing in the middle. I didn't pay attention at first until that tall, aloof figure slowly turned around. It was Robert. He was wearing a light gray suit, perfectly tailored, his expression indifferent. He was tapping lightly on his phone screen, looking like he had stepped out of a magazine, calm, stern. Unapproachable, this was a side of Robert I rarely saw. Ms. Olivia. Sarah gently tugged at my sleeve, then gestured towards a woman secretly hiding behind a pillar. Look over there. Is that Jessica? I followed her gaze. Behind the pillar, there was indeed someone, half hidden. It was Jessica. Jessica was wearing a long white dress, her slender neck adorned with an employee ID card. Her makeup was light and elegant, her hair styled in a gentle half-updo, adorned with a pink butterfly hair clip. She was leaning against the pillar, but her eyes were fixed on Robert. Unblinking, her gaze was difficult to describe. It was fixed, yet complicated, like seeing a long-lost love. I instinctively disliked that look. It was like someone was eyeing something that belonged to me. I had an urge to peel her away. Two female colleagues next to her seemed not to have noticed anything unusual. Mr. Robert is personally overseeing today's meeting. It's probably going to run very late. The project is huge. After all, he's the chairman's son, personally managing it. Can't afford to make a mistake. Sigh. A man worth hundreds of millions. Just looking at him a few extra times might bring me some good luck. As soon as those words were spoken, I saw Jessica's pupils contract, her lip bitten almost bloodless. Watching her heartbroken look, I understood. She regretted it. It made sense. A pure love champion from college, having been through the tempering of society, finally understood what she had missed out on. The elevator doors slowly closed, Robert's figure disappearing into the gap of steel. Without pause or hesitation, Jessica stood rooted to the spot, her face pale. Hey, Jessica, are you all right? She shook her head, forcing a smile. I'm fine, just suddenly feeling a bit dizzy. No one knew what she was thinking at that moment. I didn't either. Just like I didn't understand back then, I didn't understand now. I thought for a moment, decided not to alert the secretary, and didn't take Robert's private elevator. Instead, I quietly took the regular elevator with Sarah. Jessica and her colleagues slowly walked in. She was looking down, absently scrolling on her phone. Perhaps she was stimulated by a message on her phone. As she looked like she was about to collapse otherwise, I thought, even with my sunglasses on, she would have recognized me. But with Sarah and me standing behind her, she was completely unaware, her head down, looking distracted. Her odd behavior made her colleagues suspicious. One of them, without thinking, actually read the message on her phone out loud. Piggy, can't we discuss the wedding finances anymore? You know my family's situation. We really can't come up with $288,000. A lot of wedding finances discussions around here are only $128,000. A bizarre silence fell over the elevator. The air seemed to freeze. The female colleague who had read the message also realized her slip of the tongue and awkwardly fell silent. Jessica's face, meanwhile, drained of color little by little, like she had been publicly flayed. A flush of shame rose to her face. then quickly receded, leaving it a bloodless gray. If I had known things would turn out this way, back in college, I would have never refused Robert. Her voice was quiet, like she was talking to herself, or like a natural reaction to a sudden shock. I turned my head and glanced at her. She mentioned Robert. Sarah covered her mouth, looking at me nervously. Jessica's two colleagues exchanged glances, their expressions quickly shifting from shock to gossip. Really? You and Mr. Robert were a thing before? Jessica took a breath and nodded slightly, a hint of shy pride in her demeanor. Yes, if you don't believe me, check the Coastal City University forums. He bought over 9,000 roses to pursue me back then. That post is probably still there. 9,000 roses and he still couldn't win you over. Jessica's smile froze for a moment. In that instant, her eyelashes drooped, as if a nerve had been quietly plucked. The female colleague immediately pulled out her phone and searched, and indeed found the sensational old post. The photos were gone, but the replies mentioned Robert pursuing Jessica. Tycoon spends a fortune, showers campus beauty Jessica with 9,000 roses. I was there. The spectacle was amazing. I only regret it wasn't for me, also there. What does it matter if he's a tycoon? The campus beauty didn't care for him at all and refused. The roses were given to everyone in the women's dorm building, quietly asking, why did this tycoon pursue the campus beauty and not the campus queen? Weren't they in the same dorm? The female colleague scrolled through a few pages and quietly put her phone away. Something felt off to her. Huh? No way. I heard Mr. Robert's wife also graduated from Coastal University. Listening to this, Jessica's palms were white from her nails digging in. Only when the pain hit did she manage to regain her composure. He's married? She asked hoarsely. Yes, he's been married for a while. You came later, so you don't know. Back then, everyone in our company received a $999 cash bonus or gift card or cash gift envelope. It was from Mr. Robert personally, symbolizing a long and lasting relationship with his wife. The company group chat exploded, and everyone sent congratulations for over 10,000 messages. It was truly amazing. I even saw his wife's Instagram. She travels by private helicopter, Mr. Robert drives a luxury sedan e.g. high-end Mercedes-Benz, and she drives a luxury convertible e.g. Rolls-Royce Dawn. A truly wealthy lifestyle, and I heard she's a campus queen-level beauty. I raised an eyebrow. Looks like I need to be more low-key on Instagram in the future. At this moment, Jessica's eyes were terrifyingly red, her fingers clenched until they were white, by the look on her face. She must have already guessed that the person who ended up marrying Robert was me. Olivia. I know her. We were roommates back then. When Robert was pursuing me, I was still hesitating. She saw him and just went straight for it and confessed. I thought that wasn't very nice. But I didn't expect her to raise her hand and slap me. And I don't know what she told Robert, but anyway, he inexplicably blocked me that same day. Saying this, Jessica trembled with anger, biting her lip, her eyes filled with intense hatred. Everyone else in the elevator held their breath. Their ears perked up. The air seemed to solidify. No one dared to speak, but their eyes were wide with shock. I heard Sarah swallow, and even her breathing became shallow. I stood in the corner, my fingers twitching. Honestly, I wanted to impulse slap her, but reason suppressed the impulse. If I made a move, and it became news, it would give a spark to the pay group's competitors, potentially igniting a wildfire that would ultimately affect Robert, even the stock price. Jessica, since you know Mr. Robert, could you help me deliver this meeting material to the executive office secretary's office? The female colleague handed over the documents. You're so beautiful. If Mr. Robert sees you, he probably won't be able to take his eyes off you. She winked, the meaning obvious. Jessica paused. Then her lips curved into a perfectly timed smile. She was wearing a white dress today, with light makeup and her hair styled in a half-updo. The butterfly hair clip made her look particularly gentle. All right then, she said softly. I wonder if he still remembers me. She seemed a little uneasy, but more than that, there was a calculated composure. I stood still. Sarah glanced at me, then at my dark sunglasses, and finally quietly moved to the side, even suppressing her breathing. Of course, he remembers you. Honestly, you're the one who got your level. How could he forget? But honestly, I can't even imagine what Mr. Robert is like in private. I always feel like my legs would go weak if he looked at me, like I'd made a huge mistake. Jessica chuckled softly, her tone unhurried, carrying a hint of intimacy. He's a very nice person. Graceful. You'll get to know him better if you spend time with him. Sarah stood beside me, looking like she was about to roll her eyes. I stood quietly, not speaking. I just noticed something intriguing in her words since being transferred to headquarters. She hadn't had a chance to see Robert yet. The elevator stopped on the 97th floor. They exited first. The front desk secretary saw them and her expression immediately turned cold, her voice like ice. "How did you get up here?" Jessica froze. "To deliver documents." "Deliver what?" "Just give them to the front desk." "What department are you from? What's going on? Who let people in here casually?" The secretary was blunt, her eyes clearly showing impatience and vigilance. After all, the 97th floor was a restricted area. Entry was prohibited without special permission. The girl next to Jessica was scared speechless. Jessica's face also paled slightly. Just as she was about to explain, the secretary suddenly noticed me. She paused, and her expression changed drastically. She immediately straightened up, her tone respectful, like she was a different person. "Good morning, madam. Mr. Robert is in a meeting. Would you like to rest in his office first?" I nodded. The secretary immediately stepped forward to lead the way, her attitude deferential. Jessica stood rooted to the spot, as if struck by lightning, her expression stunned. In her eyes flashed intense shock, confusion, and a hatred she could barely suppress. She recognized me. Her colleague next to her turned pale, terror-stricken, vaguely recalling the words spoken in the elevator. A chill ran down her spine. Just now, they had been discussing Mr. Robert in front of his wife. When the elevator light for the 97th floor came on, she had been a little suspicious, but the documents needed to be submitted before the end of the day, and requesting permission was too troublesome, so she decided to take a shortcut by riding the elevator to the 97th floor. After hearing Jessica's words, she used her as a shield. After the 76th floor, only the four of us were left in the elevator. She had subtly glanced a few times. After all, such an attractive, aloof beauty was hard to ignore. It was just that her expression behind the sunglasses was too cold, which made her hesitate to stare frequently. She never expected her to be Mr. Robert's wife. She was even more beautiful in person than on Instagram. I didn't say anything, just brushed past them, at least for now. She couldn't even go upstairs without someone's permission, and sending a document got her kicked out. This showed that there was still a vast distance between her and Robert. Good. The power of the one who got away doesn't seem like much after all. "Olivia, aren't you going to say something? If it wasn't for me back then, do you think you would have been worthy? Would it have been your turn?" Perhaps enraged by my ignoring her, Olivia yelled loudly. The entire secretary's office staff looked up. I stopped and slowly took off my sunglasses. "Where's the chief secretary?" A woman in a well-tailored suit quickly walked over, with a wave of her hand. Two people pulled Jessica and her colleague away. It was quite undignified. Jessica huffed and told me to just wait. Sarah coldly reminded the chief secretary, "Don't let her on the executive office floor again." A reminder wasn't necessary. I had never taken Jessica seriously. I came just to see what was on Robert's mind. If one look from her could stir his heart, then this marriage wasn't worth clinging to. Robert is an extremely rigorous and disciplined person. If he still had feelings for Jessica, he would likely do something about it. Given his business acumen, if he wanted a divorce, and she wasn't prepared, she would be cast out most pathetically. He was ruthless with his business competitors. I sat down in Robert's office. His office was as luxurious as ever, with a master bedroom, golf simulator, cigar lounge, pool table, and even a game room. I never understood his hobbies. Hearing he had a 2-hour meeting, I decided to take a nap. Sarah leaned over. "Ms. Olivia, did you notice? The dress Jessica wore today looked a bit like one you wore in college." She paused, then excitedly pulled out her phone. "I have an old photo I took. Mr. Robert gave me a month's salary bonus because of this photo." She enthusiastically scrolled through tens of thousands of photos. I had been too busy lately, forcing myself to squeeze in time to come to the company to understand the situation, just to avoid being caught off guard, was truly exhausting. I casually glanced at her phone. Drowsiness washed over me, and I fell into a deep sleep on the leather sofa. I was woken up by a kiss. The moment I opened my eyes, Robert had one hand untying his tie, the other supporting him by my side, leaning down for a deep kiss. There was no escaping it. I nearly suffocated, seriously. Was he trying to murder me now to make way for his idealized first love? I bit him. He let go with a wince, gently rubbed the corner of his mouth, and asked in a low voice, "Why are you here?" I had come to the company to see Robert only a handful of times. His question even sounded strangely wronged. I heard Jessica was transferred here. I came to take a look. I stared directly into his eyes, not wanting to miss any of his reactions. The man who was always shrewd and terrifyingly decisive in the business world showed a moment of confusion, then seemed thoughtful. A slight smile lifted the corner of his mouth. I stared at his slightly upturned lips, the place I had just bitten until it was red, almost broken skin. It was particularly jarring. He smiled. I sighed softly in my heart. Looks like a divorce is highly likely. I should probably go back and discuss the details with a lawyer. If worst comes to worst, I'll install a camera. If Robert cheats, I should be able to get more. While I was meticulously planning in my head, I was suddenly pulled into Robert's arms. He buried his face in my hair. "You suddenly mentioned her name." I didn't react for a moment. "You're jealous." "And I'm happy, sick man me jealous." "All right, I have a class tonight." I wriggled out of his arms. The atmosphere felt strange, and I didn't like it. I went to adjust my clothes and hair. Sarah always said I was too meticulous, that even my feet were perfectly cared for. No matter the occasion, I was always impeccable. I stared at myself in the mirror, reapplying lipstick. She was right. I never allowed myself to be sloppy. Just like my daily 6-kilometer run, I never stopped. So I came to see if Robert was still someone I wanted. When I came out, Robert had also tittied himself up. His jacket was draped nearby. He was wearing a dress shirt with his tie tied, sitting formally at his desk, signing papers with a fountain pen. Seeing me emerge, he pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses and resumed that imposing, reserved by the book serious demeanor. "I'm flying to Country F the day after tomorrow. For about 2 months." I stated briefly, like a routine report. The pen in his hand paused. He looked up and gave me a deep gaze, but didn't speak. I looked at him, scrolling through my phone. Sarah cautiously knocked on the door, breaking the silent stillness. "Let's go." I stood up. Sarah picked up my bag and followed me awkwardly. "Ms. Olivia, Mr. Robert seems unhappy." She had almost held her breath when she came in. I hummed in response. Whether he was happy or not was none of my business. Robert had been immersed in the business world for so many years. A reserved by the book serious professional like him wouldn't easily let people detect his emotions. For him to look so upset that even Sarah noticed meant it must be directed at me. "Ms. Olivia, look at the photo." Sarah excitedly pulled out her phone to show me a picture. I only meant to glance casually. The photo was a snapshot from a summer dusk. A crooked umbrella shielded a man's head. I stood beside him, holding a bouquet of dark roses in my arms. The camera captured the moment our eyes met. I remembered that day. It was raining, and the slanted sun peeked through the clouds. I looked at him and smiled. "Send me the photo," I said. Regaining my composure and putting on my sunglasses, Sarah's fingers flew across the screen. About a minute later, Sarah was spinning around excitedly. "Who understands? I got 2 bonuses for 1 picture. Ms. Olivia, I love you." I ignored her, but the photo brought me back to the past. Sarah drove, taking several deep breaths to calm herself down. "Ms. Olivia, look at the hair clip and your hairstyle in your picture. Doesn't Jessica's styling today look a lot like yours?" After Sarah said that, my mood inexplicably turned irritable. I suddenly remembered, that day, I was the one who stopped him and said, "I don't have a boyfriend yet, pursue me," but I didn't remember wearing that white dress. I also didn't remember using a butterfly hair clip, and today, Jessica, from the tip of her hair to the hem of her skirt, from her makeup to her expression, was almost identical to that image. In an instant, something shattered. My heart felt like it was being slowly pierced by a cold needle, not painful, but chilling, like water dripping on stone. At this moment, I heard something inside me finally break. "Let's talk tonight." Just as I was fuming, a text message from Robert popped up. My usual calm indifference cracked. "Talk about what? Divorce?" I threw my phone aside. "Book me a flight for tonight anywhere. I need to calm down." Sarah secretly glanced at my face, not understanding why I had suddenly turned chillingly cold. I didn't go home, and I didn't go to class. Perhaps the only time I wasn't completely in control was this moment, boarding a plane with my identification. After landing, the hotel manager came to pick me up. When I turned on my phone, it showed countless missed calls from Robert. Looking at them made me feel annoyed. Divorce agreement is drafted. It's in the second drawer of the bookshelf. Take a look for yourself. If there are any issues, let the legal department discuss and handle them. Whether or not to make the divorce public is up to you. I drafted a text message. After sending it, I turned off my phone. Divorce wouldn't be easy. It would likely be very troublesome. Fortunately, I had said early on that we should wait to have children and had been using contraception. It would be even harder to leave if we had a child. I soaked myself in the bathtub until the water turned cold, unwilling to get out. Meanwhile, Robert was furious. What happened today? Robert is terrifying when he's angry. Sarah hadn't seen him like this in a long time. His voice wasn't loud, but it was so heavy it felt like she could barely breathe. It was Jessica today, Mr. Robert. You remember her, right? The girl you pursued in college, the one you ordered 9,000 roses for? She came to the executive office to see you, and Ms. Olivia ran into her. In the elevator, she said Ms. Olivia stole her boyfriend back then and slapped her, and even said she was the one who made it possible for you two to be together. Oh, and Jessica also yelled at Ms. Olivia, saying, Olivia, aren't you going to say something? If it wasn't for me back then, do you think you would have been worthy? Would it have been your turn? Sarah mimicked Jessica's tone and mannerisms perfectly, though her exaggerated facial expression was a bit too much. Robert's eyes flickered. His face instantly turned chillingly cold. He picked up the internal phone and dialed. Within 10 minutes, add Jessica to the permanent blacklist of Pay Group, and all its wholly owned subsidiaries refused to hire her for any project or position, and never collaborate with her. The person on the other end was startled. Mr. Robert, remove her as a named investor, freeze all approved budgets, stop projects, and withdraw advertisements. He spoke word by word, his tone steady, like he was talking about the weather. Yet it caused the temperature on the entire floor to plummet. If she dares to step on my wife's face to climb up, she should know the consequences. He extinguished his cigarette and stood up, his voice low and cold. When did she start drafting the divorce agreement? Hanging up the phone, Robert thought of that text message, and his heart ached fiercely. Sarah's eyes widened, knowing she couldn't hide it. She confessed directly when Jessica broke up with Chen's Song. The air seemed to be paused briefly, while Sarah was almost driven mad by the tension. He flicked his fingers, gesturing casually towards the door. He told her to leave. Sarah was relieved. Looking back, she felt Mr. Robert looked like he was on the verge of breaking. Sarah, he frantically called Olivia's phone, but it remained off. I was woken up by the doorbell. Getting out of the bathtub, a chill ran through me. I had been really tired lately, always feeling fatigued. I had fallen asleep in the tub. Outside the door was Robert, looking a bit weary and haggard. Olivia, he said, calling my name word by word. Then he pulled me into his arms, squeezing me so tightly I could barely breathe. What are you doing here? If I remembered correctly, headquarters was very busy during this time, with a project he was overseeing personally. How could he suddenly appear here? He lowered his head and tore open my bathrobe, like a wild beast. I pushed back, but couldn't budge him at all. After the chaos, he still held me, his grip tightening like a vice, still trembling slightly. Want a divorce? In your dreams. I was confused, Robert. My voice was a little hoarse, but cold as frost. He instinctively held me tighter. Olivia, I said I wanted to talk to you. It was about your friend Megan. Just like a businessman, his mind worked quickly. My attention was immediately diverted. Even though I hadn't asked during this time, I had been thinking about it. I wanted to ask why she did that to me. I couldn't understand. She took responsibility for everything. David got away clean. Megan will go to jail. Robert looked at me, seemingly pitying me. I don't have many friends, only Megan. We grew up together. We had our little arguments, but I would always yield to her in the end. She had a difficult personality and liked to keep many things hidden, but if I ignored her, she would secretly hide and cry. I stared at the ceiling, feeling confused for a moment. Why? I couldn't figure it out. I wouldn't dwell on things I couldn't understand. Things had already happened. No matter the reason, Megan harming me was a fact. This time, I wouldn't forgive her. But I looked up at Robert. He had heard Megan's words, and yet he said he didn't take them seriously. He wasn't my first crush. When he pursued me, he spread some rumors. I was angry and had warned him. Was he retaliating now? I sighed. David was very handsome, and many people pursued him. That's why he was so unwilling, even resentful. After I rejected him, he deliberately spread rumors that we were together, and was then stimulated by my statement that I would only marry a rich man. He held on to that drive, started a business, and became successful. likely returning wanting to humiliate me, only to find that what he possessed was worthless in front of me. That's why, for revenge, he pursued Megan, whom he otherwise would have had no chance of meeting. After pursuing her, Megan fell for him, and that's how Megan ended up secretly getting together with him and ultimately plotting to ruin me. Megan, like me, didn't have a happy family when she was young. She always longed for a family of her own. Someone with a calculating mind like David, who saw through people's hearts, could make Megan completely fall for him with one move, trapping her in the illusory dream he constructed for her, unable to escape, to think she would willingly go to jail for him, but just for revenge. To go to such lengths seemed a bit illogical. I frowned. "How is David's company?" I asked. "It can't compare to the pay group," Robert replied quickly. How many companies could compare to the pay group? What was he trying to say? Knowing exactly what I was asking, I looked at him silently, expressionless. His company's capital chain is facing problems. No wonder. I'm going to make David lose everything. In a business war, Robert was the trump card. Got it, wife. His lips curved into a smile, and he rested his chin on my shoulder, suddenly seeming to be in a very good mood. This was a side of Robert I rarely saw. Or perhaps I had never truly understood him. Perhaps it was because he agreed so readily. I thought for a moment and kindly reminded him, "You should go find Jessica. She's currently having problems with her boyfriend over wedding finances now. You won't even need 9,000 roses. She'll be with you." Hearing that name, his body stiffened for a moment. "Why would I look for her?" he said in a low voice. "My wife is right here, right?" I was used as a stand-in. Looking at my expression, he felt a wave of frustration. He gently bit my shoulder, then cupped my face, exasperated and helpless. "Let me explain. Back then, when I pursued her, I mistook her for someone else." The shrewd Robert didn't want to admit this absurd beginning, but if this was something his wife was bothered by, he didn't mind revealing his embarrassing story. During Coastal University's anniversary, I passed by the music practice room. That day, I saw you playing the piano for a cat. That one look, unforgettable. Unfortunately, when I wanted to introduce myself, I was called away. I thought it was okay. I'd run into you again. A hint of embarrassment flashed across his face later. "I saw Jessica, wearing clothes you had worn, styled just like you. I thought it was you, so I started pursuing her. It was the first time I liked someone. As for how to pursue someone, it was your current assistant who gave me the strategy: roses, handbags, lipstick. The first time I met her, I asked her, 'Hello, my name is Robert. I saw you in the music practice room yesterday. You were playing the piano for the stray cat, and you looked mesmerized. Can I pursue you?' A young Robert, experiencing his first crush, stood in front of Jessica with a bouquet, carefully choosing his words. "No, if you like me because of the stray cat, I refuse, and I won't play the piano again in the future." Robert was rejected. He told Sarah about it, feeling annoyed, thinking a recent graduate would understand women and know how to pursue them. Jessica kept refusing, but she never told him that the person playing the piano in the music practice room that day wasn't her. She also never told him she already had a boyfriend. She just watched Robert fall for it. Until that day, when you came down and said she had a boyfriend, I was very down, but then you tilted your umbrella towards me, wearing that white dress and smiling at me. In that moment, it blurred with the image from that day. I shamelessly fell for you. It wasn't normal, based on intuition. I went to the Coastal University music practice room to confirm. It was you. I was overjoyed. It was you all along. The one I liked had always been you. He lowered his head. This liking isn't perfect. I was a failure, right? I didn't dare bring it up. After all, it wasn't something to be proud of, but that roommate of yours, she's a bit immoral. You might not have noticed, but she was imitating you, her clothes, her styling, everything. And she must have guessed I liked you, that I had the wrong person. She deliberately misled me, showing up every time below your dorm building to confess to you. Every time I thought of you seeing these scenes from upstairs, I couldn't bear to admit how foolish I had been. So I never mentioned it. Being with you, I was ecstatic, almost crazy with happiness. We got married, Olivia, he sighed. But I found that you're always so clear-headed enough to withdraw from my side anytime, anywhere. You like traveling, you like freedom, just like I like being at the company, expanding my business empire little by little. I thought we would be like this forever, but you said you wanted a divorce. I don't agree. Olivia, listen clearly. I don't agree. His heartfelt confession was abruptly cut off by my nausea. I didn't dare look at Robert's expression. I felt like throwing up. I held it in and held it in, but finally couldn't. and rushed to the restroom. When I came out, Robert was already dressed. He took me to the hospital. On the way, I repeatedly pondered his confession. I had thought Robert liked Jessica, and I just happened to appear, a girlfriend who offered herself up after being repeatedly disappointed by Jessica. That's why I never discussed feelings with Robert. Robert also carefully avoided the topic. I thought we would just make do like this, and had even prepared for things to fall apart if Jessica returned. I avoided Robert's gaze. In the early hours of the morning, the VIP suite's air conditioning was cold. "Ms. Shen, congratulations, you're pregnant," the nurse's words landed, stunning both me and Robert. We hadn't planned to have children. I remembered it was the time David tried to harm me. Robert was like a madman. He didn't use protection, and afterwards, I forgot to take the pill. We looked at each other. The atmosphere was strangely silent. The nurse gave an awkward smile. "Be careful in the first 3 months. No intercourse." She gave a list of instructions. I was still in a dizzy, bewildered state, but Robert was listening very intently. "Have the designer renovate 2 nursery rooms at home." Robert's fingers slid across his phone screen. He sent a voice message to his executive assistant, then looked up at me. "Olivia, do you think little Robert will be like me or like you? Will it be a boy or a girl? If it's a boy, I'll teach him business from a young age. He'll avoid a lot of detours when he grows up." The thought of a miniature, stoic figure sitting beside Robert's office, signing papers without a smile, sent a shiver down my spine. "A girl," I interrupted him. Robert's lips curved upwards slightly. "Little Olivia would be adorable." An image of a little girl in a pink dress, soft and cuddly, appeared in my mind. I glanced at Robert. This man was terrifyingly shrewd. In 2 sentences, he had led me into envisioning the child. Just before this, we were talking about divorce. We weren't ready to be parents. We were still hesitant, yet in an instant, he accepted the new identity. And he was guiding me, making me accept it too. After thinking on the bed for a few minutes, I decided to have a serious talk with Robert. "I don't accept cheating, including emotional infidelity, if you fall for someone else during the marriage. The property will be divided into 3 parts. The child stays with me, and I'll take 2/3 with the child. You get 1 part. Robert took a deep breath. "Okay." I knew this didn't mean much to Robert. He still had the pay group behind him. He could start over any time. Robert's team flew to where I was the next day. Triple pay, all airfare and accommodation reimbursed. After finishing his work, he rushed over to see me. He also brought his legal team to draft the agreement I had mentioned yesterday. It wasn't until I signed it that I felt a sense of relief. I couldn't quite describe the feeling. This was something I had always wanted to do, but having it in hand, having this security, I wasn't particularly happy. Robert established a company in my name, hired a professional management team, and guided me step by step. I had done some writing for a while, so I picked it up quickly. Robert was also a bit surprised. "Olivia, if you had entered the business world earlier, perhaps we could have been equally matched." I didn't comment, because I thought so too, or perhaps all my current resources were from the pay group. It's always easier standing on the shoulders of a giant. Establishing the company kept me very busy. It made Robert constantly worried, but seeing my rare smile, he breathed a sigh of relief. "Olivia, after having the company, whether or not I'm around, you'll have the confidence to negotiate with me. Our status will be equal. Can you consider trying to love me?" Robert was holding the soup prepared by the nutritionist. Such a tall man, slightly bent over, looked at me with such anxiety and nervousness, like he was waiting for my judgment. I didn't say anything. If this were when I had just gotten together with Robert, I might have casually blurted out "I love you," even if it wasn't sincere, but at this moment, I couldn't even pretend. Finally, I nodded okay. The pay group chairman and madam gave a bonus to the company. It was said to be celebrating the birth of their grandson, and looking at the ugly, wrinkled little bundle, I didn't feel much maternal love. I wondered if I was an exception. After all, I saw other mothers crying with joy while holding their newborn babies, a miniature version of Robert. It looked awkward, no matter how I looked at it. "Little Robert, Mommy loves you, and she loves Daddy too." Such a tall man, holding the tiny bundle, looked particularly comical. He whispered things into the little one's ear. I felt like I was seeing a different side of Robert again. I looked at him, unable to resist the urge to smile. Do I love my husband? Before little Robert arrived, I could say I didn't, that I could divorce him anytime, but when he explained, my heart slowly, little by little, found peace. The day I played the piano for the stray cat was the day my parents divorced, the day our two families tore each other apart. It was the day I, on the verge of shattering, was rebuilding myself within the notes of the piano. I never expected that scene would be etched in someone else's world. It was like someone picked up my broken pieces, put them back together, and said they liked me, love. I think my heart stirred.